Hey everyone, welcome to the Parts Girl podcast. I have Jason Goler with me. Welcome, Jason.
Who? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I've been watching and listening to your podcast, so it's really cool, and it's very humbling to talk to you, and be recorded and everything. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, I'm really glad. I'm glad you reached out and said you were listening because I was like, you know what? I need guests. And since you listen, I need you to come on the show. So,
All right,
are you the parts director or the fixed ops director? You're the
parts.
parts manager. Okay.
I'm the parts manager. So we don't have a director, right, per se. I'm the parts manager. We also have a service manager, but we're very fixed ops focused.
Good.
So we do a lot of things that are adjacent to our job titles, right? Like, so just because I'm the parts manager doesn't mean I'm not involved in service and so on and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah. And I'm excited to talk about that because I remember in our first conversation, you guys are really just not siloed. You're together.
Correct.
And you are at a Honda dealership. So Parkway Honda in Boston, right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome. So, real quick, I think your story is really cool because your dad was in the car business. So can you tell us a little bit about just that experience and basically growing up in the car business and never really.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, my dad was a salesman. Some of my earliest memories of my dad are like him coming to pick me up from school and like a brand new car of whatever year it was, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is so cool. But he didn't actually have a car, but it would be like a car he was driving to deliver to a customer or something like that. So I got the bug early, right? Like, so I was always looking at cars and I knew what models were what. I could tell what was what by the tail lights and the bumper and all that. And, I'm 6, 7 years old. So
That's pretty good.
yeah, I liked cars a lot, like I really love cars. And I grew up with that passion. Obviously as we all get older into our teenage years, every kid wants to drive, right? So my first jobs were, okay, I'm going to go to work at whatever dealership my dad's working at the time and go do something there after school. If I have to wash cars, if I have to move cars, if I have to jump batteries or whatever, just move cars around in the lot, whatever it took.
Yeah. So that's how you got in. Your dad was working at the dealerships and you got the
I
bug.
didn't even get hired. I just showed up.
You just showed up. You're like, hey, I'm going to work.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's cool. That's awesome. Okay. So I have to ask, how did you get into parts? Like because your dad wasn't even in the fixed side. He was on the sales side. So
he's
how
variable.
did you?
He's all front end. Correct.
Yeah. So how did you get in?
I remember, I want to say I was probably like 16 or 17. It was a GM dealership that he was selling cars at the time. I walked into the shop and I saw one of his good buddies was one of the master techs there. And he had this car in about 1 million pieces with an engine on an engine stand and like everything everywhere. And I was just like, I was standing there on my jaw, like on the ground. I was like, oh my God, how do you do this? Like, and he knew where everything went. He wasn't looking at a book. He wasn't following any instructions, but it was like a big puzzle. And that just kind of like drew me in from there. So like ever since then, I've always loved service. I've always loved parts. I've always liked taking things apart, putting them back together. So it's kind of like a natural fit for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I just kind of fell into it that way, completely honest, stumbled into it.
Yeah. You just fell in love with it is, you're right. It is like a puzzle. The whole, not even just being a mechanic or taking apart, the cars, the whole operation as fixed is kind of a puzzle.
It is. It's a giant machine. That's exactly right.
Yes, that's perfect. And then, so you guys are very, very much not siloed, not the traditional, like parts is parts and service is service.
No.
You are often like very much involved in service, even though your title is parts manager, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, like I was telling you before we started recording, I just sat down. I was in the shop all morning, making sure all my technicians could log on to their Wi-Fi so they could look at all of the manufacturer stuff that they needed to. So there is no siloed sections. My service manager and I are joined at the hip half of the time. And if we're not, we know where the other one is. We're a text or a call away. And technicians are very comfortable coming to our parts department. Parts guys will go out, bring parts out to the guys, look at the cars with the technicians, talk to the advisors. We work really well together.
And where do you think that started from, or how did that Because like, was the service manager there first, or like how did that all play out?
Culture.
Culture.
Culture. I mean, his background, he's a technician by trade. He started as a tech. You know,
Okay.
I've been in dealerships my entire life, so I have no problem walking anywhere. So like, and I
Yeah.
find that a lot of the time when you have an issue, it's better to cut to the quick, right? Like go right to where what's going on is and try to do your best to remedy the situation. So because of that, we have like a really, really good open door policy, even with the front end, even with our sales side too. My used car manager will come through the back door and be looking at used cars with us all the time.
Yeah, and I see that you have light too, so you're not like, well, you are you in the back of, there's parts behind you. So are you in the
Yeah, there
back?
are. My office is kind of like in the middle of my department. So I
Okay.
like to call us parts in general, I feel like are the central nervous system of most dealerships. So we literally touch everybody. If you go upstairs, I have a door that goes to my BDC. I have some doors that go to my sales department, some doors that go to my service department, some that go to retail. So it's like we touch
You're like in
everybody.
the middle.
Yeah, we're in the
Yeah.
middle. We really touch everybody. And it's
Yeah.
important to be mindful of that as we're kind of like interacting with everybody.
Absolutely. And so did we touch on how long you've been in parts? I don't think we said how long.
No, as a manager, I've been a parts manager now for coming up on 5 years. Before
Okay.
that, I was an assistant for about 6.5 years, and I've had some really good mentors. And I've done other jobs in parts. Like I started as parts delivery. Like when I was delivering parts when I was a teenager, and just kind of did everything I could until there. Like working the counter, delivering parts, and just kind of learning about inventory management, learning about ways to keep your inventory clean, keep your obsolescence down, all of that, and just really being engaged.
Yeah, because it's a puzzle.
It is a puzzle, right?
Inventory management is very much like a puzzle. There's
Right.
lots of pieces. Yes. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit of some of your strategy. Do you have anything that you feel like you're doing as far as a parts manager to make sure you have the right parts? And just like, what are some things that you guys do that you think might be a little different than other dealerships?
Lost sale, very, very important.
Yeah.
Very, very
Okay.
important.
How do you do them? Because there's like a bunch of different ways to do lost sales.
I can't give away all my secrets, but I'm very aggressive with lost sales
Okay.
because I truly view a lost sale as a lost sale, the lost opportunity at that moment. So if I
I
don't have
think,
it,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
need it.
Yes. And I think the most important thing, right, is that everyone knows the process of your lost sales. Because if you're the only
Right.
one doing it, then it's not going to be efficient,
Right.
right?
100%. So even like I'll have, obviously every technician thinks we should stock everything. That happens all the time, right? But luckily I've been able to get my staff to be on the same page with it too. They'll see that we're starting to move a valve cover gasket for whatever car it is. Hey, you should look at the sales stats for this one, and it's no guessing, right? There's no like, oh, I got a feeling this is going to sell. No, we talk about it, we research it, we look at what the data shows us, and then we adjust from there, right? But everybody's on the same page. Everyone's looking at them. And that's the biggest thing. If your people aren't trained and they don't know what those lost sales are or what those trends look like, then there's no point even logging them. Right. Like, so they're all kind of, we're all pulling in the same direction in that regard. Right.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you've also shown the text to that you can't just like put it in the inventory. There's data involved and you have to look at that to make sure that you can stock it and sell
Right.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've built up that trust, right? That earned over time. That's not just, that's not something that just happened overnight, right? It's a culture that has to be put into place and they have to see, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. This worked. Or maybe this didn't work out so well. There are some times where we think something's going to go one way and clearly doesn't. Like that's every day in the dealer. So,
Yeah,
but it's
that's
all a
true.
conversation.
Yeah. So you're building the trust by basically doing it and showing. That's how you build the trust. Yeah. And you show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then hopefully you're like, hopefully this works.
Right.
If it doesn't work, don't be mad.
Right. Exactly.
Try again later.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about mentorship because I think that's something you're super passionate about because it sounds like you've had some really great mentors throughout your career. And I think like as far as like just my experience with people, I feel like we never really say like, hey, you're going to be my mentor. It's like someone that's in your life that they just they just help guide you in a way that you just need it, other than like your parents or,
Right.
someone. It's like, is that kind of similar experience? It wasn't like you were like,
Somewhat,
you're,
yeah. It's not like overt, right? Like you learn a lot from everyone that you work with, whether you realize it or not, right?
Mhm.
But I've been fortunate enough to have some parts managers ahead of me that kind of was like, they took their time and they explained things to me like lost sales, right? Like, so I try to do that same thing with my staff, like the conversation I was referring to was with someone that's only been working in parts for 4 months, but they understand the concept, right? So you have to kind of like show them those little things. It's almost like breadcrumbing, you know? So I had some really good teachers that would slowly bring me along because there's so much can't possibly learn it all in a year's time, right? You need a few years, you need to go through a couple of situations and see how
yeah,
things work and see how things, play out. But I've had some really, really good mentors, that have shown me like stocking levels, how to accurately assess things, how to deal with shops, how to deal with technicians, and it's been really a passion of mine to kind of share that, even with other parts managers, right? There's a parts manager at an Acura store I'm helping now to try to learn him a little bit and teach him and train him up on our DMS. We use CDK. Not everyone uses CDK. He comes from a different DMS, but I have no problem showing him how to submit a return, right? So I was FaceTiming him earlier today and helping him submit his return. Like I enjoy that because people did that for me.
how did you guys get connected? Are you part of the same group, or you just happen to know each other because
We
you
just
follow
know,
me?
we know similar people, just people who know each other, and they put us in touch, and
Yeah.
that's really all it is, and I want to help anybody that I feel like cares, right? If you're engaged and you want to do a good job, cool. I can work with you,
Yeah.
but if you're just going through the motions or whatever, this might not be a good working relationship, right? Like I'm very
True.
passionate. So like when I'm in, I'm all in, like I, to the point where people have to dial me back, right?
And you want to see that from someone else too. You're putting in the effort. You want to see them putting in the effort. So
Right.
I hear that a lot too, because there's not a lot of groups out there for parts managers to connect. So it's just a matter of networking, getting to know people so that, if someone has a problem. That's why I was so passionate about starting the Parts Girl, because I was like, there's not a lot of resources. So even if I can't directly help someone, I know someone that can help. Like,
Right.
yeah,
And
because
that's
I
how
get
I
all,
found your
yeah,
podcast, to be honest with you, because
I'm sorry.
that's how I found your podcast.
Oh, that's
Because
cool.
I literally like I'm reaching for that. So like there are a couple of Facebook groups, there's a couple of Reddit groups for parts managers, and I'm like, there's got to be other people who have these type of thoughts or want to try to explain these things or I want to see how people do this or like, and it's good to bounce ideas off of each other. You don't
It is.
necessarily have to do the same thing, but you could talk through them, right? Like, and it's a forum almost, right?
It is, yeah, and I've been part of those groups on Facebook, and I think there might even be some on LinkedIn. And honestly, I get kind of overwhelmed. Like, I wish there was a better way to organize it.
Yeah, I hear that.
So many things going on, and all the comments, and then some of them are negative, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I
Right.
can't do
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
it.
parts, right? Parts is a very special breed, right? Like there's some of the most
But there are
sarcastic,
some,
snarky, awesome people in the
yes,
dealership, right?
there's some really funny ones. And did you see the one, oh God, what is the book? Someone wrote a book, and it's really
Yes.
funny.
Yep.
Did you get the book? I haven't gotten it yet.
I did. I ordered it, and I ordered one for each of my counter people.
Okay.
Hopefully they don't watch this because that's what they're getting for Christmas.
Oh, well, now they know.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
won't order it. But yeah, no, I heard it was really funny because,
Right.
yeah. Well, do you remember the name of it so we can like shout it
I
out?
don't off the top of my head. I'll remember it as soon as we're done recording, I'm sure.
I know it's
Yeah.
something simple. It's like the day and a parts person, and it's like
Yeah.
just
Yep.
so fun. And then also too, like there's the one Parts Holtz. They started theirs, Chris Collins. I don't know if you've listened to that one.
I have.
Yeah, so there's some good ones out there. But I don't even know where we were going with that. We're
Well,
just
really,
talking about
I think the point is really just the sharing and the collaboration
that's
of
great.
processes and what works for you and what doesn't, right? Like,
Yeah.
because what works for a store in Los Angeles isn't going to work for me here in Boston, or maybe even a store that works 20 miles north won't work for me here where I'm at, So like, it's just to bounce ideas off of really, like, and one, I've learned so much from just talking to people that sometimes, I have a problem and I think there's no way around it. And then I see it and I'm like, can't believe I didn't think of that. This person's smart, like it's really cool. And it just builds that camaraderie because that's, it takes me back personally to working on the parts counter with the other counter staff. And we're all sharing knowledge and we're telling jokes and we're listening to music and we're selling parts and we're just having a good time. Right. And that's really what I hope to provide that for my department and my staff.
How many parts counter people do you have?
Full time 4.
Or okay, that's good size.
Yeah, it's
And then
decent.
you have delivery people too, and you
We
have
do.
someone
Yeah, we
shipping
do
around.
local delivery. And we're growing, we're growing. And we're going faster than I would like a little bit, because I'm a parts person, right? Like I'm very measured. I like to do things at a very, conservative pace and make sure everything works out. But it's cool, and I can see I can see them witnessing the growth too, which is even better, right? It's awesome. It's fun to watch.
Exciting. Yeah. How do you manage that with being like a parts person that is a little bit tends to be more conservative and like, how do you what's the question? Just not deal with, but maybe like how do you process? How do you stay like not scared? I guess is the right word, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know that I'm ever scared.
Well, that's
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes.
it's scary
But I
sometimes.
just
It
like to,
takes risk and
it's more about, it's not so much about being scared, but it's just more about respecting the opportunity and the position, right? Like our inventory is our dealership savings account. That's my dealer principal savings account. Like I look at it and I treat it like that because they've entrusted me to do that. So I'm very careful about how I manage it. I'm very careful about how I sell things, how I price things for that reason, right? It's a privilege.
no, that's a great perspective to have because it really is. I know it's parts, but it really is money that you're managing
Oh yeah.
for actual money, which
Oh
is
yeah.
a really big responsibility. So,
Totally.
yeah, absolutely. So, I want to talk about something that maybe a lot of people don't know about you because you were in the music business. So, you did actually leave the
Yeah. I
industry.
got out of the car business for a little while. And my dad was so proud. Like he was like, oh, you're doing good. Great job. And yeah, so I was in the music business probably for about 12, 13 years. Yeah. So when I went to college, I was, I was an audio engineering and broadcasting major. So I have a background in music production and recording. So I did, yeah, I produced music for a long time and I actually recorded a lot of work. So I got to
Anyone
tour.
famous? Any
Huh?
famous? Is there
No,
anyone?
no, no.
Darn it.
No, it's pretty niche underground, like independent hip hop music, but
Okay.
it afforded me the opportunity to travel and to really get around and like spread my wings, right? Like and to
Yeah.
really see the world, which was nice. I got to travel to a lot of places that I'd never ever thought I'd be able to go. And because I was so into cars, every single place I would go, I would be like, oh, I got to go to this place. So like when I'm in Germany, first place I got to go, Autobahn and the Nürburgring, like
Wow.
so I had those experiences. So it's really interesting for me. Like, I feel like I've lived 2 of my dreams, right? Like I love cars and I love music and I've got to experience them both at a pretty decent clip. So long story short, yeah, I did that. And I moved back to the Boston area and kind of settled down and found myself working at a dealership again. Right. Like same as it ever was. And yeah, I just
So,
really, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, so getting through that or going through that experience, you got to experience a lot. What do you think like the most impact you had like that translates back into automotive and what you're doing now, like from experiencing all of that for what was it,
Um,
13 years?
the independent management, so like a lot of what I did, was as an independent artist and not being on a major label, you're very hands on in everything. So it's a very entrepreneurial thing, right? Like you're the one at the end of the night dealing with the promoter and settling up, you're also the one sometimes even passing out your own flyers, right? So it's like you take on all of it. You're fully engaged in everything that's going on, so that experience promoting and passing out flyers for like a show or a club night to me is no different. Every single month I'm setting up my coupon and my mailers and making sure that people know that we're here and that we're a resource if they ever need anything, right?
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
that's all of those experiences kind of, parallel to me, and making sure that you take care of your expenses, because if you're on the road, you can't spend all your money, right? Because then you're not going to eat, like,
And how did you learn that? It was just something that you just realized you're like, "Oh, I gotta do this, and then I'm gonna figure it out." Or did someone
well,
sh
lots of
show
trial and
you?
error. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way,
Yeah, trial and error.
so,
You're like, "Oh,
and
crap, I didn't
sometimes
have
things went
money."
great. Sometimes I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. But
Yeah.
those formative years and being able to do that, it gave me that experience and that opportunity to do that and to make those, not mistakes, but to make those situations learning experiences,
Yeah. Yeah, you learn from them, and then you're able to really apply what you learned to what you're doing now, because it is each role that we have is essentially like running. We're part of a business. We're all part of it. We want it to
Right.
grow, and we have things that we need to do to make the business grow.
Yeah. And, it's funny when I talk to some parts managers, I always try to impress that upon them, like you have to kind of take an entrepreneurial approach. It's your department. Granted, there's obviously levels of control that you either have or don't have, right? Like everyone, you got to play by whatever rules you're given. But at the end of the day, it's your thing. Be engaged, make it work.
Yeah. I do feel like a lot of parts managers are like that because their parts department's their baby.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so I do feel like that's a lot of the mindset, and it's a good mindset to have. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we spend a lot of time here, right? Like more often than not, we're here with our staff and our counter people and our parts driver more than sometimes even with our family. And
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, right? So you have to make that time count, and you have to make that time at home count too to balance it out.
Mhm. Yeah. So we only have a little bit more time left, but I did want to touch on that about family because, we're an industry where we are just like work, work, work. And we're
Yeah.
kind of shifting a little bit into making sure we have that family balance. So for you and your dad, you got to go to work with your dad and be there with him. But for you, because you have family, right? And kids.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I have two kids and my beautiful wife.
Yeah. So, and your
See how I
kids,
threw that in there so she doesn't get mad at me?
yes, your wife is important, or the wives are important.
Yeah.
And she probably understands that month end you can't plan anything.
Yeah, and that's tough because she's a travel agent. So she likes to
Oh,
travel, so like,
yeah.
yeah, but she also, we met in the car business. So she gets it,
Okay,
right? So she
okay.
knows month end, no, Jason's busy. Forget it. It's just, but yeah, it's so true. It's, it's, it's really, it can be difficult, but the other side of it is, I've had some really great experiences where my son, like, he's kind of not done the exact same thing, but if he comes to work here in my department, he knows where things go. He can locate parts, right? Like,
Oh,
yeah. So you
cool.
kind of like, like you have those little things that you remember, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, showing kids too, like your work is important, and that it shows them good work ethic too. I
correct.
think like
Yeah.
my daughter's 4, so she thinks that I don't know what she thinks I do, but she she thinks she just knows I work at home. But my husband's also in the car business, so he what was I saying? She thinks he fixes cars, but he doesn't actually fix them.
Yeah. Little kids always think that at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure she'll learn too. She'll be like, "Oh, these are real, the parts go," because like she's got that organization thing. Like she's the one of those kids that like lines her toys up and like separates the colors and things.
She liked puzzles. She's a parts
Yeah,
manager.
I think so.
Yeah,
So,
awesome.
but your kids, so are your kids, how old are your kids?
My son just turned 18, and my daughter, she'll be 11 pretty soon, in about a month and a half or so. So
Oh, that's so
big
cool.
difference, very different kids, of course, right? Like each kid's
Yeah.
different. But my son he's a gearhead. Like he likes cars, he likes gasoline, he likes anything with wheels and a motor. Oh, and he came about it honestly, right? Like, so he's very into it.
So is he going to be a mechanic or what do you think he's going to do?
He's definitely
Yeah.
rich. He's got tools. His grandfather as well has had his own shop, an independent repair facility. So he grew up in it. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
he's changed oil, he knows how to swap tires, like he's very much in it, So I wouldn't be surprised if, 25 years from now he's doing whatever podcast they're doing, like the same exact way, just like I am, right?
Yeah. Well, that would be so cool. What about your daughter? What do you think what path is she on? I know she's on 11, but
I don't know. I don't know. She likes Taylor Swift. I know that much.
yeah, she's heading into those years of really hard times.
Everything's Swifty. Yeah, everything is all about the Swifty. That's it.
Well, Taylor Swift, if you really look at the overall, she did it right. I mean, the way that she's done everything, she's very successful.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Good role model. Well, was there anything that you wanted me to ask you or wish that I asked you? Or is there anything that you want to ask me as we wrap it up? Sometimes I allow people to ask me questions. What do you want?
No, I don't really have any questions. My mind's like spinning just because, like I said, this is the first time I've sat down all day. So I have like a million things going on, but no, I'm just really, really thankful. And honestly, I needed this. This is like therapy for me today. So thank you for just setting this up and taking the time and just spending some time to chat.
Yeah, I'm really glad we did. And I think a lot of people are going to get something out of this because you've got a great story. And I think the way that you view parts and everything is, the right way to do it. So I think
I try,
yeah.
I try. I'm glad you think that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, I'm sure they can find you on LinkedIn and we'll make sure the links are there so people can find you if they want to ask you any questions.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get to you, people like I honestly, I'm that person where my wife would be like, get off your phone, So like, I will be that guy. I'll be texting. If you text me, I will text you back at some point in the day. It might be at midnight. Don't be surprised.
Yeah. I know. Isn't that funny with like LinkedIn? I'll reply to stuff later because it's like, it's a LinkedIn message. It's not a text message. Text messages, I have it like cut off time. I'm like, oh, I can't text because that's late. But like emails and LinkedIn, I'm like, okay, we can message
let it
later.
fly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And I'm like on my phone and I'm like, I'm actually doing stuff on my phone. I'm not just scrolling. Like,
right. Yeah.
Organizing or replying.
Try explaining that to your 4-year-old when she gets to the age to have a phone. All right.
Oh God. What age is that? Because it's never happening.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, every kid's different. Like I said.
I'm going to try to delay it as long as I can.
Yeah. Good for you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I hope you have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. PartsEdge, the power tool for your parts department. We hope you're leaving feeling motivated, challenged, and inspired.